All right, y'all, just past the 100-mile mark, it is time for the review of my new Saucony Kinvara 11s. Cheers, beer runners, and thank you for joining me for my latest and greatest product review. Unlike a lot of the reviews I've done in the past, you've probably seen me do plenty where I have been sent a product for the sole purpose of reviewing. That is not the case for these shoes. I myself was in the market for some new shoes. I've been running with Brooks for I don't know how long, but I have a tendency to find a shoe that I really love, and then I just keep buying that same model over and over again. I had never run in Saucony before. I'd kind of had my eye on them for a while, so when my last pair of shoes finally hit their mileage cap, needed to get a new pair, refresh my running shoes, I decided to finally give Saucony's a try. And after doing a lot of research into which model would be the best, I eventually settled in the Kinvara 11s just because it was really marketed as kind of the perfect everyday trainer. I've been running in them for just over 100 miles now, so I figured it was about time I gave you all the review of what I thought. As I mentioned, I was in the market for a new pair of shoes, and I really kind of break my running shoes into 2 to 3 now major categories, and that's basically 1, my long run running shoe. I'm looking for a lot of cushion, something that's gonna protect my legs on those longer time on feet duration runs. Then I have my middle ground runner, my middle ground shoe, my everyday trainer, and that's for anything up to like 13 to 15 miles in training, some speed work mixed in there, a lot of steady state running, etc. Just kind of my go-to flexible running shoe. And then the last one is my recovery running shoe. For this specific shoe, I was looking for that middle of the road everyday trainer that can do some short sprints. It's good for recovery runs. It can do longer runs as well. And that's when I settled on the Kinvara 11s. Specifically with my longer running shoes, I have the Brooks Ghost 11s, which I also really love that pair of shoes, but it is on the heavier side. And so I use that a lot for those longer runs where I want that added cushion, that added support in the sole to help just make it through those longer effort runs. But I was really looking for something a little bit speedier. I didn't have a solid go-to running shoe to do any of my track workouts, any of my steady state runs, my tempo runs, etc. And that's really the gap that these shoes filled. So just to quickly cover some of the basics with this shoe, I mentioned weight is a huge factor. These are incredibly lightweight, only 7.8 ounces total. Another thing that I was looking for was something with a lot less of a heel to toe drop, so a lot more even of a shoe. I think the Ghost 11s are like 10 or 11 millimeter drop. I think closer to 10 millimeter drop. Here you're looking at only 4 millimeters, so a lot less difference between the height of the heel and the height of the toe, which is something that I was interested in. I went with my normal size 10.5, and the color choice here is the Blue Mutant. That was another thing that kind of enticed me to go with the Saucony Kinvara 11s. Was I really enjoyed the different styles of colors that they had, and this was actually one of the new layouts that they had just released before I purchased the shoe. So huge fan of bright, flashy colors, so that's always a plus in my book with any shoes I'm looking at. I mentioned weight was a pretty big concern for me, and just to put it in perspective, so as I mentioned, these are 7.8 ounces. The Ghost 11s are 10.9 ounces, so a little over a 3-ounce difference in weight between the two shoes, and that might not seem like much, but especially for that time on feet, those longer duration runs, or those longer races especially, you're not gonna notice these weighing down your legs as much as some of those heavier shoes. One of the first times I tried out these shoes was actually when I was doing the David Goggins 4x4x48 challenge a few months ago, and I especially noticed I was flipping shoes back and forth, the different shoes that I was wearing with each interval that I was running, and especially in day 2 when I was really starting to drag, really starting to have a hard time, the weight difference was so noticeable between the Ghost 11s and the Saucony Kinvaras. Again, I can see the benefit of both. The extra cushion was nice because as my legs began to feel more fatigued, the cushion with the Ghost was really nice to have, but also just the less weight, the easier it was to carry my feet when they were substantially fatigued towards the end of that challenge. These were a godsend towards the end of the Goggins challenge. And that actually transitions nicely to one of the features that I really wanted to hit on, and that is the cushioning itself. So I keep saying that I like the Ghost 11s for a more cushioned ride for those longer efforts, but even though these don't have nearly as substantial of a sole on them, the cushion that they provide is incredibly soft. It is an incredibly comfortable shoe, an incredibly comfortable run, and that's something that I noticed right away the first time that I put these shoes on. The soles themselves use their Power Run foam technology. Every running shoe brand now has their own brand of foam, but this is an incredibly soft, incredibly comfortable ride, but it doesn't have the same squish as the foam that they're using on the Ghosts. The foam I feel like that they're using on the Ghost, the DNA Loft foam, is a lot more for impact absorption. So you feel a lot less of that impact on your legs. Whereas the Power Run is still gonna absorb that impact, but it's also firm enough that it helps to transition after it absorbs to then spring you back forward. So again, just a lot lighter, a lot more responsive of a shoe. Perfect for, again, when you have some of those speedier effort runs where you don't want that heavier shoe slowing you down. You want something that's gonna provide the cushion that you need, but that's gonna help propel you, spring you forward. And these really hit that mold perfectly. What I notice a lot running in these shoes is, again, I mentioned that you still have that cushion that you would feel with some of those more substantial foam shoes, but what you feel even more is you feel almost more connected to the ground. You can feel yourself springing off. You can feel like as your foot rolls forward, you can really feel every inch of that transition. I personally am a heel striker when I run, so you can feel kind of that transition from heel to toe pushing you forward. It's hard to explain until you try it out, but really, really enjoy just the feel of these shoes. They're incredibly comfortable from the first run that I took in them. Very easy to run in and very comfortable to run in as well. While we're on the topic of soles, if you watch my unboxing video, you know one of the biggest concerns that I had was how durable this sole was gonna be. There's almost no rubber covering on the sole itself, which I'm sure helps with the total weight of the shoe. It's all foam except for two small areas. You have a little bit of rubber padding right here on the right under the big toe, under the pad of the foot, and then on the outside of the heel as well. These two areas specifically are where my running shoes wear out first. So I was hopeful that wearing these, I wouldn't see as much wear on the soles, even though they are mostly bare foam, because most of that wear and tear is gonna be absorbed by these rubber pads. And that did turn out to be the case. You can see here pretty clearly that the foam has held up remarkably well. Even the rubber itself isn't too worn down yet. And again, this is a little over 100 miles into the shoes, so I have been very impressed with how well this sole has held up to the challenge of all the different runs that I've put them on. Obviously, they're a little bit dirtier than I'd like, but I just took my first run out in the rain in these bad boys, so they did get a little bit muddy, starting to see those colors fade, but hey, it just lets you know that I am running in these shoes. The last thing that I want to touch on in this review is the actual fit of the shoes themselves. One of the things that Saucony touts is their 360-degree form fit technology. A lot of companies have all these kind of marketing gimmicks of different technologies they use, and a lot of times I don't notice it when I'm actually wearing the shoes, so I was curious as if this would be the same, but what I will say is right from the onset, it was noticeable that there was something different about these shoes. Specifically, when I first put them on, it felt like the shoes themselves were constricting my feet in a way. It felt a lot tighter than I'm used to. I tend to wear my shoes pretty loose, and I just felt like it was crushing my feet almost, and I was worried getting started on the Goggins challenge what kind of havoc these were going to wreak on my feet throughout the challenge. But what I noticed is even a mile in, 2 miles into that first run, that foam started to kind of mold to the shape of my foot, and now there's none of that discomfort at all. There's no tightness noticed whatsoever. It really just took a few runs, and I feel like it's almost improving every time I wear the shoes, is that the foam itself, the shoe itself, is forming to the shape of my foot and just becoming an incredibly comfortable ride. And that really kind of sums up my feeling of the shoes as a whole. They are just an incredibly comfortable and incredibly responsive shoe. I really, really enjoy them. They're so lightweight, and once they kind of form to your feet, you barely notice they're there. Especially with just the responsiveness of the foam, you're able to really feel the road as you're running. They're so lightweight, you barely notice them on your feet. So it's just a very cool, very kind of airy, lightweight, comfortable ride that feels really good whether you are out for a recovery run. I'll be giving these a try in a marathon attempt this weekend, or doing some kind of speed work. Like, these really are that everyday trainer, that middle of the road, versatile shoe that I was looking for, and I cannot recommend them highly enough. I have really fallen in love with these shoes. So if you are in the market for a new everyday running shoe, I would highly recommend giving the Saucony Kinvara 11s a try. On their website, they sell for about $110, but another nice thing that Saucony provides, which I haven't seen a lot before, is the ability to finance that shoe in 3 payments. Interest-free, just breaks the payment up into 3 monthly payments. That's something that I might take advantage of as I start to expand my running shoe collection, but just absolutely love the shoe. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments below. I hope you found this review helpful. If so, please like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the review, and until next time, I'll see you around. Cheers.